Boxing truth here. All right, I wanted to talk about one of the fights Showtime recently announced for their series of fights for later this year, and most of them are going to happen early next year. And it was a bunch of good fights that were announced, but one of the fights jumped out at me, and it was because it surprised the hell out of me that it's going to happen. And that was Adrien Broner's next fight, and he's going to be scheduled to fight Adrian Granados for early next year, early February, next February, on Showtime. And my first reaction to the fight was that why on earth is Adrien Broner fighting Adrian Granados? It just doesn't make any sense. I mean, Adrian Granados is the type of guy you fight unless you absolutely have to. He's the type of fight that you take unless you absolutely have to. I mean, he's not a guy that, especially a guy that's in the position of Broner, that you just willingly fight. Either Heyman and his team have no idea who Adrian Granados is, or they see it as a really soft touch, or they're freaking fed up with Broner and just want him to get his ass whooped, because it's a very tough fight for Adrien Broner to fight this kid in Adrian Granados, who's coming off momentum. He's coming off a very big win last year, upsetting Amir Imam, beat the shit out of him, just destroyed him, and made him just walk them down and wore him out to an 8th round stoppage. And it's not the best style for Broner to be fighting, especially coming off 10 months of inactivity. All the issues he's going through outside the ring, doesn't seem to be focused on boxing right now all that much. He's only had one fight this year in a cherry pick fight, showcase fight against Ashley Theophane on Spike. Wasn't an impressive performance. Didn't wow anybody with his performance against Theophane. He had some rough moments, got outworked, was getting outpunched, but he won the fight. But that fight just reminds you how flawed Adrien Broner is as a fighter. And I've questioned some of the management decisions that decisions they've made for Broner in his career. It made no sense for Broner to fight Sean Porter. I mean, that fight didn't make any sense for it to happen. There was no incentive for either guy, well, for Broner especially, to take that fight, because it wasn't for a world title. Porter wasn't really the biggest name he could fight, and it just made no sense for him to take that fight. It just makes you wonder. I mean, is Al Heyman pissed off at Broner? He's putting him in these type of fights that make absolutely no sense for him to take. And I mean, I'm not complaining or nothing. I'm just shocked, considering, if I'm handling Broner, Adrian Granados is the last guy I put him in there with. I mean, it makes more sense for Broner to fight Ricky Burns for the world title instead of fighting this guy, Granados, who's a tough customer, who's seasoned, a tough opponent. He's never been stopped. He's a rough customer. He comes to fight, throws a lot of punches, and he just delivers the type of style that's just going to make it absolutely difficult for Adrien Broner, because Broner, he's just not a busy enough fighter. He doesn't let his hands go enough. So I can envision already that this fight is going to be controversial. Now, on the bright side, Broner's the ace side in this fight. He's going to be pushed for bigger fights in the future if he continues to win. So politically, Adrian Granados is against it in this fight. He's going to have to win 10 rounds of domination against Broner just to get a draw. But there's a risk here for Broner's side. He could possibly get stopped, or he could, get his ass whooped by Adrian Granados. But it's a fight that doesn't make much sense. But it's a good fight. It's an interesting fight. It's an intriguing fight because Granados is considered world rated. He's considered a top 10 junior welterweight. He's coming in with momentum. And I was expecting a much softer touch for Adrien Broner for his next fight if he wasn't going to be fighting for Ricky Burns for the title. I mean, what type of payday is Broner going to get for this fight, to fight this type of fighter in Granados? A guy that not many are willing just to willingly fight. And considering the other options on the table, he could have just fought Ricky Burns for much more money and also for some hardware, possibly get his world title back that he lost on the scales in his last fight against Ashley Theophane. But this fight styles make fights. So Broner, he's a much better counterpuncher than Amir Imam. So Granados is aggressive. He throws a lot of punches. He doesn't have big power though, but he can grind you down and wear you out and tire you out. His gas tank is much superior to Adrien Broner's because Adrien Broner fights in spots. He takes breaks, goes on the ropes, to get a rest, and then he'll explode once in a while. And then if he gets you hurt, then he'll explode and try to get you out of there. But most of the times he doesn't throw many punches. Kind of, like Floyd Mayweather, just around 35 to 45 punches around. Mostly one shot at a time. So it's going to be a controversial decision that I see happening because Granados is going to come forward. He's going to be overwhelming Broner with activity and volume. But Broner is going to be able to land a lot of good, clean, flashy counter punches in between. It'll be a matter of whether Broner can hurt Adrian Granados. But Adrian Granados is tough. He's never been stopped. And he's shown heart in his fights, getting dropped in the first round by Amir Imam, getting back up, and then beating the crap out of Imam the rest of the way. The same thing could happen in this scenario, in this fight. But as much as I shit on Broner, and I don't think he's that good, I do give him credit for his durability, his toughness, his ability to take shots, and his ability to come back after getting hurt. He's shown that in fights against Maidana, and he got rocked against Porter and was able to come back and knock him down. But he had a shitty performance, but he showed heart in Maidana fight where he was getting his ass whooped, and then he had a good series of a few rounds where he was getting back into the fight until he got hurt again and got knocked down, and that was pretty much a wrap for that fight. But Broner is durable. He's not an easy guy to stop. He can be rocked, but he's not an easy guy to stop. And Granados is not the biggest puncher, but he can grind you down and can overwhelm you with his activity. So I can see this fight being a very controversial decision. It could end up being Granados clearly outworking, outpunching, and overwhelming Broner, but possibly getting robbed in the scorecards. Or it could be a fight where it's a matter of what you like. Do you like Broner's cleaner, crisper, harder counter punches? Or do you like Granados' combinations, activity, and his work rate of punches? It's going to be that type of fight, but I'm just very surprised that this fight is happening. It's not a fight Broner needed to take. Doesn't have to fight Adrian Granados, and he's taking on a tough challenge, considering there's no incentive for him to take the fight. It's just for him to stay busy, at least, get a one fight early next year, and it's going to be a tough fight. It's going to be his toughest fight in quite some time, since the Sean Porter fight. But it's a good fight, style-wise. It'll be an entertaining fight. Granados going to come bring it to Broner, possibly whip his ass. But, Broner, he'll be presented with a lot of opportunities to counter. He's much faster than Granados. He's the more talented, skillful fighter. And his movement and his speed could give Granados problems. But Granados is one tough customer, and he's going to really bring it to Adrien Broner and test his gas tank, test his durability, his chin, and his will to win. Adrien Broner's got to dig deep to get this victory against Granados. But looking forward to the fight. But I just question some of the decisions Broner's management team has made, putting him in fights that really not going to get him into a better position. It was much more better suited for Broner to take the Ricky Burns fight, but I'm not complaining. I like this fight better than the Ricky Burns fight. He's going to be fighting a young, hungry lion instead of a faded old champion in Ricky Burns, and I give Broner a lot of credit if he could be able to pull off a clear victory over Adrian Granados, but I expect a controversial decision. This is Boxing Truth. I'm out.